Apologies for absence.
Chairman, webcast announcement.
Oh, thank you for reminding me. Rushing ahead this evening. I'd like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of subsequent repeated viewing, with copies of the recording being made available to those that request it. By being present at this meeting, it is likely that recording cameras will capture your image, and this will result in your image becoming part of the broadcast. You should be aware that this may infringe your human and data protection rights. If you have any concerns, then please speak to the webcasting officer. I'll remind you all again, when you're speaking, please put your microphones on, and when you finish speaking, please turn your microphones off. Thank you. Apologies for absence.
No apologies, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Declarations of interest. Any members with a declaration of interest? Councillor Lyon.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to declare an interest in item 8 because I am the chairman of the Essex and Hertfordshire Digital Innovation Zone. So it's not a prejudicial interest or a pecuniary interest, but I thought I'd declare it anyway.
Okay, that's super. Thank you. Cabinet members, any additional reports you'd like to give this evening? No? Okay, thank you very much. Any public questions or requests to address the Cabinet?
None, Chairman.
Thank you. Item 6 is the report of overview and scrutiny. Unfortunately, Councillor Sartin cannot be present this evening because of, I believe, flood situations over in Roydon, so I'm hoping everything is fine over there. She has sent me over the report just to remind me what was considered at the overview and scrutiny meeting. Most important, I think, on that evening, they looked at the 4-year business plan for Qualis, which again is before us this evening, so I won't go into great detail on that particular issue. We had a full and frank debate around Qualis on the evening, so I'm hoping most of the questions and queries have already been answered on that one. There was also, we looked at the work plan for overview and scrutiny. During that evening, members discussed a variety of issues. I believe that covers all points, but Councillor Wixley, you were present that evening. Anything to add to what I've just said?
No, you put me on the spot there, Chairman. I wasn't expecting that. But,
you've always got to be ready for the googly.
a crafty one there. No, I can't think of anything else, actually.
Okay, that's super. Thank you very much. Members, there will be a full report to Council, obviously, from Councillor Sartin, and I have got her notes from this evening, so I will make sure they're appended to the minutes accordingly. Can I take those as being noted? Thank you. Okay, item 7 is the implementation of the local plan. Councillor Bedford.
Thank you, Chairman. It's as per the report with one minor amendment, which is the third paragraph down page 5, the front page. We note on there that the publicised consultation date being the 8th of July. All councillors were advised there would be a short delay of approximately 2 weeks for that. That was to allow for minor tweaks to the MM's document before being finalised and sent to the inspector. I believe that the document now has been sent to the inspector, and initial reports back from the inspector as she's fine with everything that's on there. There are 1 or 2 minor wordings that she requires changed, but apart from that, we are progressing as planned. That's all I need to say.
Thank you. And Councillor Bedford, the consultation is starting from?
Hopefully, I think it's probably the middle of next week. There's the... Sorry, the latest is this Thursday. This Thursday?
Super.
I thank the staff because they've had to do an awful lot of printing to get things ready in time for that. Thank you.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of effort going into it, and of course we're making sure the consultation goes until September.
Yes, until the 23rd, yeah, so it'll be 10 weeks. So that's basically to allow the school holiday period as well. So that's longer than normal, but we think that's suitable.
I think it's worth saying a normal statutory period for a consultation is 6 weeks, so we've allowed an additional 4 to give people a really good opportunity to play their part, and it is just on the modifications, not on the whole plan again.
Chairman, it's worth remembering as well, it is the inspector's plan now. It's not our plan, it's just the minor modifications or major modifications we're doing for her.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting that. I think that's really important to get that point across. It's not the council's local plan anymore at this stage. It is the inspectors. Any questions? Councillor Phillip.
Yes, Chairman, thank you. Just, I think, to clarify, even for just to make it really clear, all that's being consulted on are the things that the inspector requires us to do to make the plan sound. It's not an opportunity to make comments on things that the inspector has deemed are appropriate.
Okay, that's a good point. Okay, any other members? In that case, can we agree this report? Agreed. Thank you. We then move on to item 8, the Essex and Herts Digital Innovation Zone Annual Report. Councillor Phillip.
Thank you, Chairman. It gives me great pleasure to bring this forward. It's for to receiving and commenting on this report. Also, we need a bit of guidance on what our long-term digital ambition is, particularly related to our key aims we go forward of placemaking and making places better for our residents. A couple of things to note on this. The Digital Innovation Zone has been very successful. We set it up a number of years ago. It has been very successful in getting external funding to allow us to make significant improvements in connectivity in our district. It's worth noting as well that we're actually already well ahead of other districts in Essex in our connectivity and the ability to provide connectivity to residences and businesses. And as we go forward into what will undoubtedly be a changed environment following COVID, this will become an even more key discriminator for businesses coming to the district, that they need to be able to be well connected. We're well in the lead there. We should be making a significant thing of this, and I know that working with Mr. Houston in terms of putting forward our view of the district for people to be attracted into it, we're making a significant play around that. I do commend the annual report to members. It is very interesting. Do read all of it. We have a real gem here that we should be very proud of. It's an award-winning thing. We don't say enough about our real successes, and I think a lot of our residents don't really know quite how successful we are on this one. I'm happy to take questions. I would just hand it over briefly, if this is all right, Chairman, to Councillor Lyon as Chairman of the board to see whether he wants to add anything to that.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Phillips. Just about to do that myself, so yeah, Councillor Lyon.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I mean, I can say that we set the Digital Innovation Zone up probably 5 or 6 years ago following the successful set-up of the Broadband Rural Challenge Programme, which was rolling out broadband services, fibre-based broadband services to the rural communities of Epping Forest. The intent originally was to make Epping Forest the best connected district in Essex, and in fact to make Essex the best connected district in the UK. We're moving very far along that way in actually establishing Epping Forest certainly as a prime mover in broadband services. This is sort of moving on now to look at mobile services as well, but the Digital Innovation Zone, the DIS as we call it, has brought together a number of parties. So we have 5 district councils and 2 county councils involved in managing and operating, and we have a very successful monthly meeting where we have probably 20 or 25 stakeholders a month coming along to listen to what we are doing and what's actually happening. I'd like to particularly congratulate Mike Bohr and John Houston for the tremendous amount of background work that they have done in actually making it happen. It's all very well me chairing meetings, but they're the brains and the workforce behind the Digital Innovation Zone. When we started on it, the number of issues that were brought up were from other network operators. We wanted to actually influence things, and we were told by a number of network operators, as a district council, you're too small. We can't talk to you as district council, you've not got enough influence. So we thought, okay, how do we actually make it happen? And we established 5 districts, so there's 3 in Essex and 2 in Hertfordshire. That was the sort of basis for doing that, and we've been very successful in getting a number of projects off the ground. We've got at least, I think, £12,000, something like that, £120,000 worth of investment, and probably something around 25 million in total for investing in broadband infrastructure. We've been successful in the local full fibre network programme, which is providing broadband services to GPs. And that is nearing completion and has been project managed by Mike Moore very successfully. So it's a real innovation. I think, as Councillor Phillips said, it's really making a difference to Epping Forest and to the whole area of the zone itself.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Lyon. And can I echo those thanks to the officers? I think Mike and John, you've done a brilliant job on this. And I can remember in the early days when Alan was coming to Cabinet telling us all about it, it was far-sighted, as we realise now, as we see what we've just gone through over the past 18 months, what a great thing you've achieved in actually spreading broadband out there. And certainly has been just brilliant for us, through these difficult times that we've had. I know one of the key things I get still is those hard-to-reach areas. Hastingwood, I'll put a plug in for this evening because I've got a number of people there saying to me, Chris, what can you do to get us broadband properly? Indeed, I should probably declare an interest because one of my work colleagues says he can't use his iPad properly because he's got no broadband in Hastingwood. So it just goes to show those inequalities in broadband in some of our hardest to get to rural areas. And of course, that's the same if you're in High Beach and other rural locations. And broadband inequalities need to be addressed, but you've done a brilliant job in getting us to where we are and actually leveraging a really good amount of ingoing investment for Epping Forest and surrounding districts as well. So should be applauded for that. And thank you both very much. And thank you, Alan, for chairing the body as well, because it's a really big plus for us. Any questions from anybody? Nigel.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Just very quickly, I attended the Whips Cross meeting earlier on today on behalf of Councillor Patel and Councillor Whitbread, and 2 important factors came out of that. One is that following the COVID situation, Whips Cross Hospital are planning or looking at moving to virtual outpatients appointments, and hopefully we can mirror that with our new hospital going forward. And also they made a bit of a statement saying that they're going to have the most digitally enhanced hospital in the country. I'd like to see if we can match that, and if not, improve on it.
I'm sure we will. Yep. Councillor Phillips, did you want to comment on that?
Thank you. Yes, clearly health is a very important part of what we're doing with the DAES. We are lucky as well that we are getting a new hospital to replace Princess Alexandra, which will be in our district. Clearly that's something that we will want to make a significant play about. And as Councillor Bedford himself knows, that we have significant policy in our submission version of the local plan in terms of provision of broadband in new builds. So we should be certainly in a good position to do something significant with that. And I note from some of the stuff I got from Mr. Ward today that actually we have over 80% of our premises covered by gigabit broadband. That is class leading in Essex, and Essex is the best in the country, so we're the best around the world on this one. So getting a new hospital in there, we definitely need to make sure that is key.
Yeah, thank you. I'll let Councillor Patel come in, then I'll go back to Councillor Lyon.
Thank you, Leader. It's quite loud. I was part of the initial conversations when this was a concept, and it's great to see how it's travelled over the last few years to where it is now. I think not to repeat anything that you've said already, Leader, but these last 18 months have showed us how important connectivity is, not just as residents but for businesses and also for our partners as well. I really welcome the support that we're giving our health partners, GP practices, in being able to reach out to our residents in a more efficient way I mean, GP's times are very pressed, as we know, and I think this is a really efficient way of moving forward. Question I have though is that obviously, you know, comments have been made that we are leading lights in this area. At what point are we going to start commercialising it and start making some money out of it for ourselves?
Okay. Well, what I'll do is I'm going to go to Councillor Lyon first. Then I know on the commerciality side of it, John will be champing it a bit. Councillor Lyon.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. Yeah, in terms of comparison with Whipps Cross Hospital, in fact, I asked the original question on the scrutiny panel about the digital hospital there. The DIS was set up on the basis of Princess Alexandra Hospital footprint, which is why we've got the areas we have. And the whole basis was how do we actually manage and improve the services from a digital NHS point of view. And the project that's just being completed now, which is the rollout of fibre broadband to something like 80 GP practice across Epping Forest and Essex and Hertfordshire, signifies that how far we are ahead, because nobody else in the country has actually done that. So we are the first, and we are now, it's now being looked at by various other NHS services to see how they can use a similar model to what we've got. So I think we are ahead of the game. Certainly we are engaged very much with Princess Alexandra on their digital mission, and are working very closely with them on all occasions. I don't know whether I could ask John or Mike to add anything to that.
John?
Thank you, Councillor Lyon. The NHS are a critical partner in the DIS. We've been working really closely with them on the LFFN project. One of the things we're looking at the minute is, as we approach final completion of infrastructure, how do we maximise the benefits for our residents, patients right across the piece and the NHS in more efficient, person-centred treatment. And I'm sure Whipps Cross have the aspiration to be that. I think in practical terms, Princess Alexandra Hospital, in terms of securing funding and a very ambitious investment plan, I think it's over 50 million potentially going into the whole area of digital services, may view itself as being slightly further along the road in terms of realising those aspirations. But it's something we understand as part of the LFFN, and the project was designed to not just connect up the GP surgeries, but also provide a backbone of fibre that then could be used for a lot of other things as well, and locations that are fibred up. And a key part of our project is to maximise returns, so that should enable potentially an additional 30,000 properties, many of them residential, to come into scope for cost-effective full fibre delivery as part of that project as well. So I think they're very, very important points about the future of health. And while a lot of it is emerging, I think the direction of travel is clear on the deployment of digital. And hopefully the infrastructure we've provided in Epping Forest over the last 4 or 5 years puts us in a really good position to be a pathfinder and a leader, ensuring our residents get the latest first.
Good, thank you. Thanks, Mr Houston. John, Councillor Phillip.
Thank you, Chairman. And I think the question from Councillor Patel is an interesting one, because what we're doing is facilitating deployment here. We're not actually doing it ourselves. And in terms of where we get payback for our residents is by making this district very attractive to businesses. If we make them more attractive businesses, we get more business in, we get more business rates, we get more people in the district, we get more footfall in the district, therefore we get more spending on our high streets. And that ties in with the report I brought the last time around regenerating our high streets. It's all about trying to make this a better place for people to live and to work. And that generates the revenue around that. And that's really where we play, because we cannot compete with the commercial broadband providers. I was talking to Mr. Houston about this last week, I think it was, and it was around a number of GP surgeries which, for example, BT Openreach had said, oh, we're going to provide them, you can't do it through this. So we've gone with our plan for everybody else, and then Openreach said, oh, actually, we're not going to do them at all. Now, that then leaves those GPs a bit in the lurch because we've worked our programme on the basis of what we were allowed to do. We need to just keep doing what we're doing, making it more attractive. If we see more companies coming into Epping, taking this building, for example, we have a floor at the top of the building that we're looking to do something commercial with. Clearly for that, good connectivity is a critical element, particularly in the current environment. So I think one of the measures we can say is if and when we are able to let the top floor of this building, it's a benefit to the district, and that's a reflection of our great connectivity.
Thank you. Councillor Sam Kane.
Thank you, Chairman. The report's asking for guidance as to the longer-term digital ambition. I feel I'd also make a pitch here that we need to be focusing on capitalising on the investment and this fantastic infrastructure that's gone into place by looking at Internet of Things projects, things like digitised bus stops so we can see when the next bus is coming, where the free car parking spaces are, where there's an available charging point, this kind of thing. We can now start to look at projects that can utilise the infrastructure in place and actually provide benefits to our residents.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Phillip.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, and that's good guidance. And if Councillor Keane remembers, I think it was probably last year now, but it was around the turn of the year, we did bring forward, I brought forward a report that did suggest we use some of this in terms of looking at things around schools. I think clearly from what you're saying is we need to take more of that guidance, see what we can do. It may well be that we can actually provide a service which you can charge people for, and that might fit a bit more on what Councillor Patel was asking as well. But the key then is let's try and do it to make places better for people to be living, and then we can decide whether we do it by covering it through our council tax, or we do it by charging for specific uses of things. And I think it will come down to the individual things. But that's very useful guidance about where we should be looking to go next.
Councillor Lyon wanted to come in.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. Yeah, I think it's all very interesting about how do we actually improve our bang for our buck. Well, I think we're getting quite a lot of bang for our buck at the moment, considering we've only got 2 officers in Epping Forest and we've got 9 partners. Each one of those partners is contributing financially towards the success of the DIS. And in fact, the county councils are actually adding more in terms of investment. So we've got quite a lot of money coming in to actually support the DIS. It's important to actually note Councillor Phillips' comments, and I think I fully agree with him. It's about improving the services to our residents. And if we are looking at charging, I'm not quite sure how we would do that within the current regime, because we'd have to get all our other partners on board to actually do that. And I think we are doing the best we can. On picking up on Councillor Kane's point as well about IoT, one of the things that we haven't yet been able to achieve, because the services that we're looking at are point-to-point to residential or business premises. There's something that I have in the back of my mind which I call street electronics, which is looking at how you deploy broadband services to things like traffic signals, bus stops, and various sort of air quality measurements. So you've actually got an integrated service along our highways and byways that would add to things like IoT that could be used and various other sort of tracking mechanisms. So that's a project that we haven't really kicked off, but it's something that Epping Forest wants to think about how we enable that. And certainly that would be something we would need to look at in terms of Harlow Gilston, the garden town, and how they deploy services that are not point-to-point, not to residential business premises. So I'll leave that as a thought.
Good. Thank you very much, Councillor Lyon. Councillor Sunga.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just want to say it's a great project here. This is a great project here. I've got a question. We've got 7 local authority funding partners. Do we have any more in the pipeline that are willing to sort of join the project here? And is there a cap on the number of partners we would like to get on board in the early stages? And will they have an incentive to invest in the infancy stages? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Phillip.
I think the DIS has in its title quite an interesting guidance about where we're going with Essex and digital innovation zone, it's really constrained around the area that we're working on. I don't expect to expand that outside that, and that covers the partners that we've got. So we are not at this stage looking for any additional partners on it. If we were to take some of the things that Councillor Kane was suggesting that we might look at in terms of something specific in IoT-wise in this district, then that might be something that we might take a partner, but that would be more likely to be a partner not from the local government environment, but a business partner. And just to make it clear from what Councillor Lyon was saying, that was the area where I was talking about potentially charging. If we're making use of Internet things to do something around that, that might be something that we can monetize. It wasn't charging for making use of the fibre. So I don't see the innovation zone growing in terms of partners for the core zone. It may be that various different parts of the innovation zone will go and do things based on that themselves.
Thank you. Councillor Holly Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman, and many of the points I wanted to cover have already been raised by my colleagues this evening. But just in relation to talking about the tangible benefits of the DIS, obviously it's a really positive thing, but to people like me who aren't particularly tech savvy with some of the language, how can we tell residents what the DIS is about and what the benefits are to them? And is there a kind of a comms project we can do around that? Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Phillip.
Thank you, Chairman. I would probably start with the connectivity of our GP surgeries. It means that we can, particularly in the current environment, be able to provide access for them to the fibre network, which means that you can do things very much easier, like video consultations. You can share detailed high-definition X-rays, for example, between surgeries or between surgeries and hospitals. It means that you have a potential there to actually be a more green approach so that people do not actually have to travel through the forest to get to a doctor's surgery. Those are all benefits. I don't know if Mr. Waugh has got any other ones he'd like to flag up for us.
Mr. Waugh.
Thank you. That issue of benefits is key to the next stage of the project. So we're going to be kicking off that element in direct partnership with our health partners, because the benefits that this network through the GPs can bring to our residents will be in the enhanced healthcare that those GP surgeries can provide. It will be in the increasing movement of healthcare from acute centres such as PAH to the community. So, for example, as you said, that there is less need to travel. I think right back at the before we started the project, there was an example quoted of a patient who was travelling 2 hours on a mobility scooter for a 20-minute appointment at PAH. So that was a 4-hour round trip, and it's that kind of immediate benefit that somebody is able to do because technology and connectivity is there. So we're not going to prejudge what the benefits will be in terms of medical provision, but we will work directly with the health partners to shape that.
Thank you. That's very useful. Councillor Lyon.
Thanks, Chairman. Yeah, just a couple of other points. One of the things that we have practically done working with the people at Uttlesford is looking at various home adaptations, and there's a dementia home that's been established using broadband services and a visually disabled home. There's a number of YouTube clips that actually establish how these things are actually working in practice. And one of the people that was interviewed was saying that she's an elderly lady living alone at home, and her broadband service is her lifeline. She is able to actually contact a supermarket and talk to the people and see the people there. And that gives her some comfort that although she can't get out, she can actually make contact. So there's a number of practical things we can actually do to improve the communications plan, as Councillor Whitbread has suggested.
Yeah, that's useful. Thank you. Councillor McCready.
Can you hear me without microphone?
Microphone's on its way.
Oh, thank you. I can probably speak louder now. Thank you. It's not in. Yeah, sorry. Just going on from what Councillor Philip was saying about transport for schools, and I was really interested in this because I'm not sure how we can cope with it, but as I think we're all aware that around schools, parking and traffic is a big, big problem. And if we could get some sort of transport system in for the schools, that would be fantastic, but it's probably impossible. But I just thought I'd raise that. Thank you.
Councillor Phillip on the impossible.
Thank you. That usually takes a little bit longer than miracles, but we might need one of those for the budget this year anyway. I was being very careful in what I said, Councillor McCready. We had, as a proposal, making use of technology to monitor parking at schools. I'm not proposing that we provide transport for schools. That's not part of the District Council remit, and quite frankly, there is no money left. But we can look, it comes back to what Councillor Kane was saying, making use of the Internet of Things to try and make things better for various places. Schools was one option we were looking at. That didn't come through in the time frame, but we will continue to look at where we can actually make use of our infrastructure to benefit our residents.
Thank you. Councillor Wixley.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I was quite interested in what Councillor Phillips said about like medical records and x-rays being sort of transferred and that sort of thing. But maybe I'm misunderstanding this, but this seems to be at a very local level. Is this not something the National Health Service is looking into itself on a national level?
Councillor Phillip.
Chairman, with the greatest respect, I'm not yet responsible for the National Health Service, and given the current state of the country, I'm probably glad I'm not responsible for the National Health Service. We took the view that it was an area where being a very mixed district with areas of urban and rural areas, it was important to make sure that our GP surgeries had the best connectivity available. We didn't want to wait. We think it's something that will deliver real benefits to our residents. If the NHS decides in the fullness of time that they can afford to do it and start to roll it out elsewhere, then that doesn't matter. We'll be in the front. That's why we are an award-winning organisation as the DIS, which won a significant award. I think that was earlier this year, but it might have been last year. But the dates have sort of blurred a little bit. Something's been going on that's stopped us getting out and seeing things. But we beat, in that final, we actually beat the Cabinet Office in terms of our collaboration. So very positive there. So we are leading. And if Sajid Javid wants to come and talk to us about how to fibre up the GP across the country, we would be more than happy to talk to him.
Great, thank you very much. Now, I've got two more Cabinet members who would like to speak. However, I would say we've had a full debate on this report this evening. Are there questions that have already been answered?
I just wanted to come back to Holly Whitbread, just to say that, yes, the concept of the DIS is fairly ethereal in its context, and the man in the street doesn't readily understand it, which is why it's so important in this next phase we concentrate on deliverables using the Internet of Things, because that will provide things that are visible to residents as benefits.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Patel.
Thank you, Leader. Just a point, I think we discussed this probably a couple of years back about just touching on what Councillor Whitbread was asking for earlier about how we communicate what the DIS stands for with our residents. We spoke about putting together a video, actually, which we could have put on our website, which you know, because I think by I mean, you can read all the words that you want around the DIS, but actually by seeing it in practice visually, I think it'd be a good way of us being able to communicate that to residents. Just this question hasn't been asked, but I think it's important to highlight actually the amount of money that we've that has been ploughed into the into the DIS, because the figures are actually outstanding for how much we've got in, how much we've actually given back is phenomenal. and perhaps Mr. Wall or Mr. Houston can answer that.
Mr. Houston.
Apologising at Cabinet quite a lot. I do remember Councillor Patel suggesting that it was a difficult thing to communicate, so perhaps we should use some of the technology we were promoting to actually communicate it through a video, and I said we would, and we haven't quite got round to it yet, so my apologies, but it picks up Councillor Holly Whitbread's comment as well about trying to make sense and communicate what this thing is and why it's important for people in ways that people can understand and wrap their head around. So a key takeaway from us tonight, we were asking for guidance, is we'll look back. One of the things we need to do as a partnership is to communicate what our successes have been, but the job that still needs to be done, and also how that impacts on people's lives practically going forward. So it's a second promise, but this time we'll definitely do it, Councillor Patel.
Yeah, thank you very much. So summing up, can I just, Councillor Patel?
Sorry, I didn't answer the second part of the question. How much money has been invested into the district?
That was the politician's answer, see. Mr. Wall.
So, in terms of the rural gigabit investment programmes, the council has put in, I think, £434,000, and I think the two projects together represent £20 million, approximately £20 million plus of investment from BDUK, but predominantly from the private sector infrastructure provider, and then LFFN is 1.7 million.
Thank you. Okay. Members, we've had a really good debate. Councillor Phillip, just to finalise.
If I might, Chairman, just to point out that for people who have access to the agenda, those figures are contained within the report.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Phillip. Can I just again thank the officers? Actually, just highlighting those figures this evening shows that we get real bang for our buck on this project. The benefits it's brought to people across our district and beyond are phenomenal, and I think my earlier thoughts on that were quite clear. Can I agree those two recommendations? Agreed. Thank you. Okay, we move on to item 9, which is the Equalis 4-year business plan. Councillor Phillip again.
Thank you, Chairman. And as you pointed out in the overview and scrutiny report, this had a fairly lengthy airing at the last meeting of overview and scrutiny. We covered this in a fair amount of detail. There were a lot of questions raised and answered. So I have been able to consider those views. There has been no suggestions of amendments necessary for this. So I think the easiest way for this one this evening, Chairman, without taking too much time, is to point out one or two things I do want to make sure are recorded on the webcast. Firstly, that there is no mention in here of putting our housing stock out as part of this. That was something that was tried to be misrepresented at overview and scrutiny. That is not in the 4-year business plan. It's not something that we've got any plans at this stage to do. Secondly, it's a 4-year business plan, and as I said at overview and scrutiny, I fully expect this 4-year business plan to keep changing as we go through the 4 years. It's setting the direction of what we are wanting Equalis to do and to look at over the next 4 years. But if we don't revisit it each year and put our hand on the tiller and steer it somewhat, we will probably end up in the wrong place. We don't want to set an end point for 4 years out now and keep going for 4 years. So we will be coming back each year with a 1-year business plan and a 4-year business plan. The 1 year says, this is what we're definitely going to be doing in the next year. The 4 years says, this is the way we're going for the next 4 years. So as we go through that, we will see changes. So don't come back in a year's time and say the 4-year business plan has changed and therefore you failed. Or don't come back in a year's time and say bits of the 4-year business plan haven't changed, so you've failed. This is a plan, setting the direction. That's where we expect to get to. I think the simplest thing now, Chairman, is to take any questions that come. I'm happy to take them. From a detailed financial point of view, Mr. Small is available as well. And of course, we have Ms. Jevons here as the Managing Director of Qualis to answer any really tricky questions.
Okay. Thank you very much. Members of the Cabinet. Councillor Patel.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got a couple of questions on paragraph 5.10 on page 69 and also on 5.11. Just on 5.10, at what point do you think Qualis will be in a position where they can raise their own capital directly from the market or use sales proceeds to reinvest? And the next question regarding 5.11, the £35 million of loan, the new loan facility, how is that going to be drawn down? Will that be initially just? I know it states in there that the release of funds will be reported to council via the quarterly board reports. But what is the longevity of that loan finance?
Councillor Phillip.
Thank you, Chairman. Let me take the first one. I think that is definitely a Qualis question to answer when they think they're going to be able to raise money from the marketplace. But if you look at the detail of the financial aspects in the four-year business plan, they look as if they're hoping to start calling down finance from the marketplace in the coming year. That is obviously subject to being able to get that finance from the marketplace. And I suspect genuinely until they try and get it down, you're never going to know quite what rate you're going to be offered and how much you're going to be offered. In terms of sales proceeds, we know that there are the 5 Epping sites that are currently under planning. Clearly, until planning permission is granted and the plans come to fruition in terms of development, they won't have anything to sell. That said, the four-year business plan does call out when they expect to have things available. And as I said, overview and scrutiny, the aim in the first instance will be for them to be reinvesting the profits within Qualis rather than paying a dividend to the council, because that's going to make Qualis more successful in the long term. In terms of the 35 million loan facility, that's to fund regeneration within Epping Forest. That will clearly come with to myself and the Section 151 officer with clear indications of what the security is, what the term that they're going to need that loan for, and we will be able to do that from the Public Works Loan Board at this stage because it's specifically for regeneration of the district. We would obviously need proper business cases to say why they're going to do it. We're not going to give Sasha 35 million just because she happens to feel like having 35 million, but it'll be tied to particular projects. And I know there are potential places already being examined by Qualis, but obviously that's a commercial thing, and I won't be talking about that in public because if we indicate that Qualis is interested in something, that might affect the price.
Okay.
Sasha, I don't know if you want to say anything more.
Sorry, no, I don't think I've got anything to add to those answers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Holly Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman. And I know I wasn't at the last ONS committee, but I did watch it back on webcast, and I was pleased to see it emphasised that at the moment the council housing is protected within the FDC and there are no plans to move it to Qualis. My question is around affordable housing and the different delivery of different types of affordable housing. What's Qualis's plan moving forward in terms of mixture of tenure, shared ownership, affordable rent? What are the kind of plans for affordable housing moving forward? Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Phillip. Oh.
I think that's a detail around what Qualis is actually planning to do, so I'll hand that over to Sasha.
Thank you.
I'm actually going to ask Simon Rutter, who's on Zoom, to answer that question. Simon's our commercial director. Thanks.
Evening, Simon.
Good evening all. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. Yeah, as you would expect, I think overview and scrutiny, I made the same statement really in relation to the Fells Lane when we were looking at it. Obviously, our objective is to to reach, where possible, policy in terms of the affordable housing percentages, and the mix of the affordable housing will be totally determined by the needs of the borough, and those needs will come out of the housing department in Epping Forest. So the mix of social rent and shared ownership will be determined by that, as will the mix in terms of unit sizes and the need in the borough itself.
Okay, thank you.
Hopefully that answers the question. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions, members? It shows that the report to overview and scrutiny was full and frank. We had a really good debate about Qualis. The importance to us as a council that Qualis is a success goes without saying. It underlines so much of what we do. So I'm pleased that we've had the 4-year business plan come to us. And as Councillor Phillips said, that will now be the annual business plan and the 4-year business plan rolling forward into the future. And we have to hope and pray that the markets stay good and that Qualis is a huge success for this council in order that we can really be of benefit to our residents. I think a couple of things came out, and I'm pleased that Councillor Phillip made it clear that we've got no intention to transfer our council house stock over to Qualis, and that's why it's not in any business plan, and therefore anyone trying to make that up is not being factually correct. I think we also clarified overview and scrutiny that we have 2 members of the District Council on the board. There are no members of this cabinet who sit on the board of Qualis, and I certainly do not sit on the board of Qualis, and I think we need to be very clear about that because a lot of misleading statements have been made, and we'll clear those up tonight. That's now on the record very, very firmly. And can I thank the officers? And it's good that we've used Zoom for some of these briefings as well, and they came through very clearly. It almost goes back to Councillor Lyons and Councillor Phillips' earlier piece about the DIS and the benefits of having a modern building with modern facilities available. Obviously, we had a good crystal ball when we redesigned the civic offices. So as of July the 19th, we will be seeing some of the restrictions that have been upon us reduced. In fact, almost all the restrictions reduced. And gradually we'll have more face-to-face meetings like this, which have been very productive and good to have everyone back together again. So can we agree the 4-year Qualis business plan? Agreed. Thank you. We have got any other business. There is no reason to exclude the public and press, and therefore I bring the meeting to a close. Thank you all very much.